Many Palestinians in the Gaza Strip are living solely on bread and tomatoes. This is something that is unprecedented for the Palestinian population. This is a result precisely of this strategy of separation and strangulation of Palestinian areas. The Gaza Strip is essentially completely surrounded with all movement in and out controlled. The economy is totally dependent upon resources that come in from the outside, and so it is literally resembling an open-air prison, where it does not necessarily a direct military occupation of the land, but it is a form of remote control from the outside. This same strategy is the one that is trying to be implemented in the West Bank, in Palestinian population areas in the West Bank. There are other issues as well. 10,000 Palestinian political prisoners are currently held in Israeli jails. In some areas, unemployment has reached 70%. In some areas of the Gaza Strip and of the West Bank, unemployment rates are around 70%. There are the economic situation in those areas, in the Gaza Strip and areas of the West Bank, is disastrous. But this is not just something related to the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Palestinian citizens of Israel are also faced with unprecedented levels of poverty in the current situation. There was some statistics that came out a few weeks ago talking about poverty levels among Palestinians who carry Israeli citizenship. Okay, and these poverty levels, if you took the Palestinian citizens as a separate or as a separate body, they had levels of poverty equivalent to countries in Africa, whereas if you took the Israeli Jewish population, the economic level was equivalent to Europe. Okay, these are gaps that have widened and are really at unprecedented levels. This is again not just in historic Palestine, Palestinian refugees as well. Last week, I had the privilege to meet some Palestinian refugees from Iraq who, I don't know if people here have heard of what has happened to Palestinian refugees in Iraq. There was a large Palestinian population living in Baghdad who were forced about 4 years ago to flee Baghdad because of attacks on them. They ended up in a border region on the border with Jordan in 4 refugee camps, living in tents, literally in tents in the desert. These tents were surrounded by Jordanian military. Palestinians weren't allowed to, the refugees weren't allowed to go in and out of these tents. They did not have any kind of education for about 4 years. They had very substandard medical services. These people, there are, I think, around 1,500 Palestinians still living in these camps on the border. They have been expelled. They were expelled in 1948. Now they are again displaced and living on this border in Jordan. Two families have recently moved to eastern Canada, to Hamilton. I met them last week, and the stories they have are very, very difficult to take. They basically one of the men sits at his door all night because he's afraid that the people are going to come in and take his children. His children can't sleep. They don't speak any English. They've missed 4 years of schooling. They don't know how they ended up in Canada. They don't know where they are. But this is, if you like, the next or the most recent step in this program of ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian population. So I wanted to point out that this is what we are living in is a disastrous and very difficult situation. Probably one of the worst of any point in Palestinian history. But at the same time, and here I'll move on to the final part of my talk, at the same time, and this might sound strange, I want to say that I think there are reasons to be very, very optimistic. I think that we are at a point where perhaps for the first time we can say we're actually winning some battles against Zionism and against this program of ethnic cleansing. I'm optimistic, and I think if this is the message that people take away from this talk, I would like it to be this, that we have reason to be optimistic, we have reason to think that we are actually seeing a turning point. And I want to explain why I think that. I think for perhaps the first time since 1948, the nature of Zionism as a settler colonial project based on ethnic cleansing is being understood by large numbers of people. Large numbers of people, say in North America and Europe, who have never come across or never understood this question before. To be a Zionist today, to be a defender of the Zionist project or a defender of Israel, is not tolerated amongst the left. Okay? And this is a relatively new phenomenon. Previously, maybe 20, 30 years ago, you could call yourself a left Zionist or a liberal Zionist. Today, that is a very difficult position to hold. And this is very important because it's reflected in the splits that we see now, and this has become clear over the last year. The splits we see now within Zionist organizations across the world. Okay, more and more Jews are saying we do not accept Zionism claiming our voice, speaking for us. Okay, this is a reflection of I think undermining of Zionist ideology. I think it's very important that people take up the call for boycott, divestment, sanctions. There was a call that came from Palestine in July 2005 asking the world to push for boycott against Israel in the manner of South African apartheid. The three demands of this call, there were three very simple demands. The first one is a full equality for Palestinian citizens of Israel. The second demand was right of return of Palestinian refugees. And the third demand, an end to the occupation of all Arab-occupied areas. This is basically the basis of unity of the Coalition Against Israeli Apartheid in Toronto. And it's kind of like where we go on. I want to point out, this is not, this call doesn't say anything about one state, two state, what kind of state. It's very simple, three demands that we work around. For this reason, it's also profoundly educational. And this is really the main point around the BDS strategy. Okay, there is no illusion that people talking about boycott, trying to pass resolutions such as the QP resolution, is going to economically affect or bring down Israel. Israel receives $5 billion a year straight from the US government. It's a major ally of the US in the Middle East. This is not, at this point, is not an economic strategy but it is an educational strategy. What it does, it opens people to explaining what it is Israel does, what is wrong with the Zionist project, and why people should not have anything to do with it. Okay, by making Israel a pariah state in the manner of South African apartheid, we undermine Zionist ideology. We make it something that you cannot do it openly, you cannot do it proudly, you cannot deal with Israel in that way. It's something you have to do under the table, it's something you have to be ashamed of. And that is very, very important for winning the ideological debate around Palestine. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.